So genetic engineering can actually, it gives you a purer product, you can target the bit that you want, and also for production that is also an advantage, because growing bugs is a bit of a pain if you can avoid that.
So is mRNA vaccination a form of genetic modification?
No,
we regard it as probably the best kept secret by governments globally at this point with respect to particularly the mRNA vaccines, as they're called. Of course, we don't believe they're vaccines. In most jurisdictions globally, they actually fall under the legal definitions for being properly described as genetically modified organisms, or GMOs. That's the little secret which just about every government that's rolled those particular drugs out has withheld from their populations. And that's what we've been in the courts dealing with here in Australia, and what we've exposed as relevant legislation affecting UK citizens, European Union citizens, and US citizens, as well as South African citizens. All of those countries have legislation which deem these products to be GMOs, but they didn't go through the proper regulatory processes, and so that little secret was withheld from populations who asked to receive these.
So is mRNA vaccination a form of genetic modification?
No,
These are, in fact, not just gene therapies, they're genetically modified organisms. What we have with Pfizer and Moderna is almost exactly the same mechanism of action for fulfilling the legal definitions of what is a genetically modified organism in this country. But first of all, it has to be any, that word's very important, any biological entity, any. Because you've got that word any there in a legal definition, it means anything, any biological entity. The second portion is capable of transferring genetic material. It's like, okay, well, what's the any biological entity? You've got the mRNA in both the Moderna and Pfizer products, so that my fist there is a clump of genetic material, modified RNA. It's synthetic RNA. There's nothing natural about the RNA in either of those drug products.
Yeah.
And in the manufacture process, it's combined with LNPs, lipid nanoparticles. The lipid nanoparticles completely encapsulate the mRNA to protect it after it's injected, so it can travel through, biodistribute throughout the body, and it goes indeed to the brain, testes, ovaries, liver, hearts, lung, goes everywhere. So it safely gets it through the bloodstream so it doesn't undergo attack and get disintegrated, and then it presents it to cells in all of those organs that I mentioned. The lipid nanoparticle has basically a chemistry affinity with the cell membrane of all cells within our bodies, right? That lipid nanoparticle envelope around the mRNA allows this whole complex to transfect or move across the cell membrane. So from out of the bloodstream to across the cell membrane and inside the cell. And once it's inside the cell, the lipid nanoparticle comes away and the mRNA is free to move within inside the cell in the cytoplasm. Now, let's just go back to that definition. Capable of transferring genetic material. What I've just described there is the physical transportation of the mRNA LNP complex through the blood, comes to a cell, transfects across the membrane, delivers genetic cargo inside the cell. That's a capable of transferring. The transfer is just the physical transferring throughout the body and into the cells and into the cytoplasm. So we've met the second part of the definition. The third part is that genetic material was created by recombinant technology. That's not a biggie here, because both companies, in all of the applications globally, very, very clearly say our product contains modified nucleosides. Now, you can only modify nucleosides using what's called recombinant technology, and that is the creation of synthetic modified RNA. That is not natural. They create it wholly in the lab. That's the recombinant technology. So all three elements have been established in this country. It was established for AstraZeneca and Pfizer and Moderna, ticked off the same three boxes. Now, we know there was plenty of failings on so many issues by doctors and health practitioners globally when it came to so much information with respect to these novel and never before used technologies. But one issue which resonates with a lot of people, no matter what sort of scientific background they've got, when you mention genetically modified organism, that strikes a bell for everyone. What? Hold on. Tell me more, doctor. What is this thing? A GMO? And this is exactly what we're trying to raise with these proceedings and this discussion, to say this isn't just isolated in Australia. This has occurred globally, and this is why so many politicians have been running from the issue, because they do not want to be seen as the late messenger for all of the world's patients who receive these things, to say, there's something your doctor didn't tell you. And sorry, your doctor didn't actually know because your health regulator didn't tell them, but you've received a GMO, and that very well can have genetic consequences.
What you've told me there, any biological entity, tick, I get that one, capable of transferring genetic material, the transfection is obvious, or that it wouldn't work, tick, and recombinant technology, these are new organisations of the adenine, guanine, cytosine and uracil, the basis of the ribonucleic acid. I just find it totally convincing. We are talking about governments around the world and regulators around the world that said, hey, John, here's a vaccine. And because I've given vaccines all my life and received vaccines all my life, I said, oh, vaccines, oh, jolly good. But they weren't vaccines, they were genetically modified organisms. And not only that, they said they would stay local, they're systemically distributed. They said they would only transfect in the arm, they transfect systemically. You know, basically, I'm furious. And I think a lot of people are angry about this misrepresentation.
So is mRNA vaccination a form of genetic modification?
No, the